airports. Eastern EU countries like Poland, Estonia have been hardest hit, prompting support for a multi-layered drone wall to detect and destroy Russian drones. Denmark has banned civilian drone flights and restricted traffic in Copenhagen ahead of the summit. Allies including Poland, the UK, Sweden and the US are providing anti-drone support, while German frigate is docked in the city. Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson and Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen have both pointed to Russia as the primary security threat, though Danish authorities have not officially confirmed Russian involvement in recent drone disruptions, as Russia denies these. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte stress the need for stronger, cost-effective drone defenses. Leaders will discuss a $162 billion fund and join defense procurement plans to strengthening Europe's military by 2030. Support for Ukraine and its EU candidacy will also be key topics amid tensions with Hungary. Now for this discussion, we are joined by Marian Duris. He's a European affairs expert, joins us live from Brussels. Thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to NewsX World. Now, Prime Minister Mikel has this today earlier, he had mentioned that Europe is evolving from a peace project without arms to one that includes armed defense. In your view, what are the key challenges and opportunities for Europe as now it strengthens its defense capabilities?
Yeah, European defense strategies are changing, and I think the Copenhagen summit will be important in this case. There will be at least 4 thorny issues on the table. First is defense. The Commission tries to lead on flagship projects such as drone wall announced by EU's executive. But in the end, it will be the individual countries who will lead these projects in cooperation with NATO. Not so much with EU, maybe just for money of EU. It shows the real abilities and power of current leadership of the bloc. Second topic will be Russia's frozen billions. The Commission thinks it's found a clever loophole to free up sanctioned assets for so-called reparation loan for Ukraine if it can get countries on board. Such a dramatic move would require unanimous approval from countries as the frozen, but Hungary and Slovakia are unlikely to approve, nor is Belgium, as the frozen assets are held in Brussels-based bank account. The Commission still thinks it might be able to pull off its plan with the support of qualified majority and is arguing the scheme will boost Europe's own arms industry. But in the real, these loan bonds or money transfers to Ukraine will not be really backed by frozen assets. The real guarantee will be by the member states. So burden of this loan can finish on the shoulder of European taxpayers, which is absolute nonsense. Third thing is new sanctions. It's a never-ending story, and now it targets expanded list of Russian and foreign banks and energy companies, including from China, UAE, Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, which I assess as deliberate damage to Europe's relations with more and more partners. And fourth topic, important topic, is potential Ukraine's EU membership. Some people say bloc's member countries need to give the green light, but there is not unanimity on this, and for more, Ukraine is not ready for EU membership. Ukraine is the country in the war without conditions met.
Right. With that in mind, now looking at the frozen Russian assets, which will be in the table today for this discussion in Copenhagen. So, how might these frozen Russian assets be used to fund the loan to Ukraine, and what will be the significance of this debate for the EU's countries?
Yeah, significance is quite high because with this, you are doing unprecedented step. So as I said before, it's very hard it will be hard mainly for taxpayers in the end. But as I said, the Commission thinks it's found a clever loophole to free up these sanctioned assets, but it depends if there will be countries who will support. As I said, this move is requiring unanimous approval, yeah, but you don't have all countries on board. You know, in real, these loan, bonds and money transfers to Ukraine will not be really backed by frozen assets, as it's mentioned by many politicians. The real guarantee will be found in the end by the member states, so burden of this loan can finish on the shoulders of citizens of the member states.
Right. And now, given this slower pace of defense decision making, and particularly in democratic countries compared to authoritarian regimes, how can EU accelerate its defense investments and cooperation without compromising its values of democratic governance, according to you?
Yes, very good question. If I go to drone wall specifically, it's the EU initiative aimed at creating a multi-layered defense network to detect, track, and neutralize unauthorized drones. It involves cooperation among countries deploying technologies such as radars, acoustic sensors, electronic warfare systems, jammers, and interceptors. I understand that some European leaders are in huge panic because of the events that are happening. And I'm not surprised, because someone could say that they are reaping the fruits of their own politics and emotional ideological approach to the challenges. The first reason was the reliance of these leaders, on American support in the field of defense while Joe Biden was in the White House, and they understood him very well ideologically. But today, Donald Trump is sitting in the White House and rightly saying, Europe, you must be responsible for your own defense, first and foremost. So Europe will actually now nervously catch up on what it consciously missed. And the second reason is the excessively so-called green approach, which has not only caused the neglect of its own sovereignty, own defense, but has also caused damage to its own industry, including the arms industry, which has been overwhelmed by tons of bureaucratic green regulations. That is why we can see today that EU Commissioner's initiative on the drone wall is only an opening word, but the final word will be given to individual countries, especially in alliance cooperation. And the EU Commissioner may ultimately only be left with a discussion about who will pay for it. And of course, it will not be him as the initiator, but he will try to shift financial responsibility to the Europeans, to which, of course, the citizens of European states can respond adequately.
And Marian, lastly, how has Russia responded to these claims of airspace incursions in Europe in recent 2 weeks or recent months? And what did Denmark say about potential responsibility of Russia?
If I have good information from media, so Russia has denied deliberate involvement, calling the allegations unfounded and attributing them to false or exaggerated claims aimed at escalating tensions. For Estonia in particular, or this event in Estonia, Moscow asserted that the MiG-31 jets were on scheduled flight from Karelia to Kaliningrad, and that they did not violate airspace. It claimed the aircraft stayed over neutral waters and did not deviate from an agreed route. And there were accusations of so-called Western hostility, hysteria. Officials have accusing countries of Russophobic hysteria, the claims or provocations and part of broader narrative against the Russian Federation. Of course, it is not excluded that these were not only statements made regarding the situation.
Right. With that, I would like to thank our guest, Marian Duris, for joining us from Brussels and sharing your insight throughout our news. Thank you very much. Now we move on to Asia. The collapsed school building on Indonesia's main island of Java has left dozens of parents anxiously waiting outside for news of their children feared trapped under the rubble. Rescue teams are searching for survivors, with efforts stretching into the third day. Authorities earlier reported that 91 people were missing. So far, 3 bodies have been recovered, with the vast majority of presumed victims still trapped. Parents of the missing children stated that authorities must clear the rubble as soon as possible, as many parents await news of their loved ones. The local head of the search and rescue teams has said that the primary focus remains on those who are still alive. He also added that the rescue team could hear voices under the rubble, indicating that some victims are still alive. Let's listen into what the parents and local authorities have said about this situation.
Puingnya diambil ya secepatnya. Itu kan banyak dari wali santri yang mau kerja. Tapi sampai sekarang belum ada titik temu antara wali santri sama Basarnas. Hanya ke pimpinan yang memutuskan itu.
Belum sampai sekarang. Dari pihak tim SAR sudah. Tadi kita berinisiatif perempuan dengan wali santri, itu kita mau bantu dari tim relawan wali santri.
Reruntuhan bangunan ini merupakan tipe pancake atau reruntuhan bangunan berupa material beton yang bertumpuk dengan celah yang sangat sempit dan kondisi yang tidak stabil, serta dimungkinkan masih adanya korban yang masih bisa diselamatkan, maka diperlukan operasi SAR dengan penanganan khusus.
Evakuasi tentunya kita fokus pada yang masih hidup ya. Terus sudah yang masih hidup, kita tentunya kan perlu hati-hati sekali karena kondisi bangunan yang runtuh itu, kemiringannya itu masih memungkinkan sekali untuk runtuh kembali. Masih banyak sekali yang masih terdengar untuk menangis, untuk menjerit ya. Artinya mereka masih hidup.